All right, Brent. I mean, let's get weird. It was a good night. First of all, weird, wacky season. We're going to get right to, obviously, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, Miami-Louisville. Just a great day of college football. But Indiana undefeated, Navy undefeated, Army undefeated, BYU undefeated. Iowa State survives a massive game, a massive test. So still a lot of craziness left, but still a lot of unbeatens. But Georgia, Texas. Listen, I think Kirby summed it up at the end, Brent, and we'll go into all the details of it, but I think he summed it up at the end, man. He finally had some reason to be doubted. He finally had some reason to back his guys in the corner, and nobody picked us, and he ain't been able to do this in a long time. They haven't been an underdog on the road since 2020. So I think that's why you saw the best version of Georgia, and specifically their defense, dude. Their defense, they were ridiculous. And here's why. Mykel Williams looks fully healthy. Jalen Walker looks like a dog. By the way, when you look at Damon Wilson coming off the edge, starting to come on the outside, you look at Warren Brinson, who was making plays left and right. They're getting healthy, and they look like a unit that we thought they would be, and Georgia dominated this freaking football game.
It's amazing that we're talking about the insanity of this game when neither team had 300 yards and there were 7 turnovers. But
yeah,
the athletes on the field and just the nature of what you saw with these games. But by the way, nobody doubted them. We kind of picked them.
Yeah.
And the reason we picked them was the matchup. And that one of the things, like looking at this game for me, was one, I think Texas is better with Arch. I don't think, and two, they couldn't, to me, run the ball effectively between the tackles. And when you can't do that against Georgia and you don't have the QB athlete or the other athletes to get outside, then, it's hard to do things against them offensively.
Yeah.
And it showed massively in this game.
I want you to save all that because I've been around football a long time, and I love the game of football, and it is an imperfect game, and refs are imperfect. But what the funk was that? Like, I've never seen that in all my years of college football. It was called PI on the field. It was announced PI on the field. Texas fans start throwing things on the field left and right, hundreds of bottles of liquid. Like, I don't know what kind of liquid, okay? I don't know if it was beer or water.
I did see one beer can in a picture near him.
Combination of all kinds. And then you come out after a 4 or 5 minute delay because of that, and you change the call. I've never seen it before in my life. I've been around football a long time. I haven't seen that in youth league football where a call was designated and they took it off. Listen, we can debate whether that was PI, by the way. And I will debate that with you and have a clean debate with you and say what you want. But that was horse crap. That was unacceptable. You cannot make a call on the field and come back and change it. Not when it's a non-reviewable call. Now, listen, when the refs get together and they talk about it and they haven't declared what it is, sure, you absolutely can do that. That's what usually takes place. Hey, you saw something different. I saw something different. Come together real quick. We'll make a different call. That was bull, man. I've never seen it before in all my years around football.
Or if you see, hey, it was uncatchable. This guy said, and then we're going to pick up the flag. It wasn't catchable. Things like that. No, I have no explanation for that other than fear for their own life. It's just, where they were, that was amazing.
So if I'm a fan in any stadium from now on, like, and you don't follow a call, just throw bottles onto the field as fast as you can, get them to delay it. Maybe you'll review it. By the way, let's get back to the targeting rules. Like, again, targeting, ruining football, dude. Like, keep guys on the field, man. Like this, give them a 15-yard penalty, so be it.
Yes.
But keep them on the field. We've got to get away from taking players off the field because it's an imperfect situation when you're trying to tackle someone and they duck their head. Like, I can't not target you when you duck your head. And so I think it's, from that point, it's a struggle. But Brent, Carson Beck struggled. He didn't look great out the gates. I think if I'm looking at Georgia and I'm evaluating them honestly on the offensive side of the football, first of all, getting your center back was enormous. Huge deal. They're better up front. Not surprisingly, they immediately run the football better in this football game. But receivers, I don't think Georgia on the perimeter is consistent enough catching the football. Is consistent enough winning out wide to be a consistent offense. I mean, too many drops. Like, what did Kirby just say? Kirby said that, but when the game ended, like 4 drops right off the bat, like to start the football game, bell, like you got to catch the football, man. You got to make plays. And Beck made some mistakes and some big ones. And if you're going to throw the football as much as he's going to continue to do, he's going to do that, but he's also going to make great plays and make big plays for your offense. So I think Georgia looked better running the football tonight than they had, obviously, the past several weeks.
Yeah, it's getting Wilson back was good. No bad snaps, by the way. When you get him back, that's actually impressive. It's one of those things you take for granted. But it's also kind of a, why didn't they run the ball more?
Yeah,
especially when Etienne at certain points in the game looked like the best player on the field. But the part about the QB, I think, speaks to both teams, especially if you're a draft evaluator. Like, they didn't look like first round QBs tonight at all. And obviously Arch came in for that little bit, and then you were started the second half. But it's just both of those guys, when the pressure is dialed up, accuracy goes, decision-making goes, and you see what we saw, 7 turnovers.
And by the way, I don't think it mattered who was playing quarterback for Texas. Texas giving up 1 sack coming into this football game. Texas is a good football team. Now, the reason I thought Texas was going to struggle defensively because they are who they are. They're very vanilla. They want to play with 2 high safeties. They don't have a guys that are game wreckers. I thought Georgia would have success because of that, but I thought their offense would be fine. I thought their offense, who's given up 1 sack all year long, quarterback who knows how to get rid of the football, this is the best Georgia's tackled. Like, Georgia came up from the secondary position, the linebacker position, tackled well. And listen,
covered well.
If Stafford played quarterback for Texas, if Peyton Manning was playing quarterback for Texas, he had no time. Like, couldn't set his feet, had to drift, and Georgia just kept rotating. Christian Miller was in there making plays. I mean,
Bryson made plays.
Yeah, I mean, they just
Jalen Walker,
how about
Amy Wilson?
To end the game too, you got different guys coming off the edge with Chambliss coming off the edge and making plays like this. Georgia's secondary played better. Their defense played better than I thought they would. They interesting kick to start the second half. I don't know what that was.
Odd. Very odd.
I think it was a miss hit, honestly, and a weird play. But got to give credit to Georgia. Texas ain't done by any stretch. No. I mean, they've got plenty of time left in the season, but they got whipped. They got whipped at home. They got whipped badly. They came back, but that was not a close game. But I think Texas, the rest of the season, if you think they're out of this or they're all of a sudden a bad team, absolutely not. No. They'll absolutely bounce back, and we'll hear from Texas again.
It's a long season, and as we're seeing with the 12-team part of it, like if we were talking 4 teams right now, it'd be a completely different discussion. But the 12-team part of it makes all this interesting, and it also shows how this year, like we've talked about before, you don't have the one dominant team.
No,
and matchups just matter. Alabama was a bad matchup, especially early for Georgia because of Milroe and his ability to run. And this game, much better matchup for Georgia. But what's interesting is we're talking all this about Texas and Georgia. Neither of them are in first place in the SEC.
Nope.
That would be the game that's next week. That's LSU and Texas A&M, who are both still unbeaten in the league. So
which is further showing you why this is going to get weird. And by the way, Brent, a lot of SEC teams are getting in. I mean, because you're going to sit at home and not play for a championship and still be a 2-loss team, very much in the mix for a playoff spot. So it's fun. But you talked about Bama. I bet you Bama fans are so pissed off right now. I bet you they're livid. I bet you they're upset. And I'm going to say this right off the jump. I think they're undefeated with Nick Saban. Like, I just do. I think their discipline is showing with the penalties that just keep adding up, the mistakes that add up. Like, Law, you can't do that late in the game. You can't throw a punch late in the game when it's 4th and 8, and now it's 4th and 23. And that's the play you run on 4th and 23. And it's frustrating to watch Bama because I think they could be so much better and they could be more disciplined. And I'm not used to seeing it. By the way, first time since 07, I think I saw that they have 2 losses before November. Yep. So I think that's how long you can go back to look for Bama, because they've been so dominant and so great. And this Bama team, man, penalties, inability to run the football, it looks strange.
It does. And which, by the way, do you remember back when we were talking about undefeated, who goes undefeated? And I said Bama's more likely to have 3 losses than be undefeated.
You did, yeah.
I may have got that one right. Luckily,
may have.
But you know, I also got some very wrong. But but still, it's the inconsistencies, and it's the inability to have some level of running game outside of Jalen Milroe for Alabama. But obviously, look, Tennessee won the game. Like, yeah, that was a massive win for Tennessee. By the way, another time beating Bama at Tennessee. And when you finally started getting some movement of Nico in the pocket, and then you finally started having Nico involved in the design QB run game, everything opened up for them.
Well,
it looked like a completely different
Sampson,
team.
Let's be honest, that dude went bananas. I mean, he just – I don't know where he was the first half. Listen, they drive the ball down the field to start the football game, and he fumbles. And I don't know if he was banged up. I'd have to imagine he was, because he didn't get very many touches in the rest of the first half. Tennessee, it's a common thread, Brent. Tennessee continues to play like crap against everybody offensively, but their defense keeps them in every single game. Alabama had over 80 snaps. You are supposed to wear down. You are supposed to get tired, and you are supposed to break. And Jalen Milroe is supposed to break one across the country and score a touchdown. They've got 11 deep on the D line. They just hockey shift the next group in, and they play hard and they rush the passer. Georgia had a little bit of that tonight. Georgia had a little bit of Tennessee in them. And just so Tennessee, you know, even with injuries and guys going down left and right, man, continue to battle. And then Nico got it together. And it was the scramble. I wrote it down. It was the scramble play with 1:45 left in the third quarter. And they're down.
The right side.
Dude, he rolls to his right and throws an absolute dime right on the money. And they're inside the 10-yard line. They get another rushing touchdown. And Katie bar the door. They start scoring. And Tennessee scored 24 points in the second half. And is that the Tennessee we see moving forward? Like, is Nico going to – because here's the thing. Okay, I want to be fair to Nico. Nico hasn't played great. Brent, I don't think his receivers help him at all either. They consistently don't make plays that hit a hand, that hit two hands, that make drops. I don't know if he has a number one target. McCoy's good. Squirrel White's good. Those guys have to make plays for him more consistently like they did in the second half today. But he got it together a little bit. He got a little mojo. And again, their defense every single week just kicks ace and takes names up front. I mean, it's impressive.
First half, 0 points, 3 straight games. First time since 1963, I think it was that I saw. But
yeah, that's for their offense. For Tennessee's offense. Jeez.
But you know, looking up their schedule before they go to Georgia on the 16th, Kentucky at home, Miss State at home, by the way, who's playing a lot better each and every week and getting better each and every week. So if they take care of business, they set up a big game in Athens.
Yeah, and here's the thing with that too. I think I also see shot plays down the field from Nico that I think, you know, if he just starts to hit, and it's got to be talked. Well, and it's got to be talked about in film room. It's always long, and I kept putting check marks down. By the way, he missed 4 long that were open. By the way, by 2 or 3 yards. And I think I'm around so many people that are like, you're supposed to hit that. Like, you need – okay, when you throw the ball 40, 50 yards down the field, that ain't an easy throw. So the degree of difficulty is high on that. But if I would just love to see him take something off of it sometimes, because if you underthrow a deep ball, I can still come back to it and give my receiver a chance. When you overthrow it, I have no chance. So keep running.
Or you get PI possibilities.
Yeah, I mean,
because that's what yours did a couple times tonight.
Keep running Nico more. I think it gets him in it. Keep rolling him out. But Tennessee's a ground and pound team with an elite defense that I think can win week in and week out because of it. And I think you can say whatever you want. And somebody, Andrew the GOAT in the chat just said Tennessee got a lucky win today. Tennessee had 3 turnovers in the first half and 2 missed field goals. Like, and 2 turnovers in the red, like going in, like in the areas apart to score. So I think Tennessee kind of actually played bad in a lot of spurts and still found a way to win because they have an elite defense.
Bama, by the way, Missouri at home next week, and then 2 weeks later at LSU. Like it's elimination games for them the rest of the way.
For Alabama?
For Bama.
Yep.
That's very much there. Speaking earlier in the day, the Hoosiers. We previewed
by
that
the way,
game.
A lot of people haven't talked about Indiana. We've been talking about Indiana for weeks.
And they put an absolute beat down on Nebraska.
They put
epic proportions.
They put them hands on Nebraska and liked every second of it. And I think we jumped the gun on Nebraska a little bit. I did. I thought they would be better, and I saw the magic in the beginning of the season from Dylan, and he's definitely come back down to earth a little bit and calmed down. Look, he's a freshman, just like we talk about
on
with
the road.
Nico. He's going to have mistakes, but Indiana, man, Cignetti, the job. So Brent, when he took the job, he had 30 guys in the transfer portal from Indiana. 30. He had 13,
he got 13 from
13
JMU.
Starters were in the portal. And he took a bunch of they had an offensive line with experience added to that, but everybody they brought in are from smaller schools. And the way he said he wanted to build it was guys with experience and multi-year guys. You go get Rourke from Ohio, who was the MAC player of the year, and you got skill guys all over the place. And Rourke's injury is the biggest deal probably coming out of this game because it was 28-7. It was 28-7 at half, and he played great. I mean, they had 343 of yards, 154 rush yards. That was probably the most surprising thing is Indiana's ability to run the football against a big physical front in Nebraska. But gosh darn, man, Indiana's been for real. And again, the Big Ten, we're going to be looking at those stats and who plays each other, who avoids each other. Because you got Indiana's schedule, Brent?
It's Michigan and they got Washington next week at home, at Michigan State, and then Michigan at home, and then at Ohio State. So
we're gonna be chalking up dubs now for Indiana. By the way, that's the world. That's the world of college football. That's the world of college football right now, Brent. I'm chalking up dubs for Indiana. I'm going dub the next 2 weeks, which is absolutely crazy. But we got to watch. You know, if Taven Jackson's going to have to play more because Rourke's hand at halftime, looked like he hit on a helmet or something. I think.
I read where it was precautionary that they took him out, but it's one of those things you never know. Does it linger, all that sort of stuff. But you talk about Cignetti and who he brought in. 13 of his guys from James Madison come with him. But the running the football was the most shocking thing of that game. They just went right down. I thought Nebraska would be able to stop the run, force them but no, they were just, hey, we're going to run it and we're going to straight drop back and we're just going to kick your tail all game long. And that's what they did.
And somebody said in the chat, Indiana is fun to watch. They really are.
They are.
The way they play offense. And I think when you got a coach, Cignetti's 63 years old. He knows exactly who he is. He's coached at all levels. And 4th and 2.
He just wins. Google him.
He just wins.
That was what he said.
Get you some of that. But 4th and 2 on the first possession, they go for it. And just the timing and the rhythm of the offense is really good. It's elite. It's one of the best you'll see in college football with the ball just coming out smooth, effortlessly. 2 guys, they make plays. And so, all right, where you want to go next? Cam Ward, Miami?
I think that was a great game. That was an exciting game, back and forth game. Cam Ward making plays. Miami's defense being uglier by the minute, but they made enough plays in the end.
Can we put Miami in the college football playoff? Because I want you to look at their schedule, Brent, and bring up their schedule the rest of the way. Who they got? Go ahead and read it real quick.
It's favorable. It's Florida State. That would be at home against Florida State. Duke at Georgia Tech, home against Wake Forest, and then the maybe is the one at Syracuse on November 30th, who is 5-1. 2-1 in the ACC.
So will Clemson have beaten a ranked opponent going to the ACC championship game?
That would be no.
Probably not. And when you watch Miami,
I take that back. Pitt. Clemson has Pitt. They have to go to Pitt.
Okay. Will Miami have beaten a ranked opponent? I'm sorry, I meant to say Miami.
Yeah, no.
Probably not. But here's what you do when you watch Miami. You know you got a guy in Cam Ward that you can win every single game. Like, he can outscore the other opponent. Like, you watch today and you watch the frustration on Louisville and you watch the frustration on everybody they play. Listen, their defense has got holes. They struggle giving up big plays. They struggle stopping the run. But Cam Ward, Miami, 9 of 15 on third downs. The dude just kind of bebops around, and
the laser to the back corner of the end zone.
It's just silly.
That was
it's silly. It's silly how good he is. He's got a quick release. Now, listen, does he make mistakes? Yeah, he's going to make mistakes, and he's going to have to play great. Restrepo, by the way, nobody talks about him at wide receiver. That dude's an animal. Like, the Virginia Tech game that nobody talks about with the 4th and 2 play where he slips and catches the ball on the ground was one of the best catches, but he's good after the catch. He's good at getting open. They've got weapons all over the place on offense. You know, their defense is going to have to be better, and they're going to have to tackle better. But, you know, Damian Martinez, the way he ended the game, like 30-yard run, punishing. They get that ground game going. They got their left tackle back this week, which I think was huge. Like, I know Miami has deficiencies, but everybody does. And if they can clean up some of that stuff on defense with Cam Ward, spin and bean, they're going to be in every single game they play, and they're one of the most entertaining teams to play.
1,000%. They are. It's fun to watch him because I'm under control so much that I almost look like I'm just kind of chilling and taking my good old time doing things. I will say, like, Brom is a play design guy and just play caller for Louisville. Like,
so
it's
good.
So fun to watch him. So good. Creates so many big plays for them. And, you know, he's obviously been at Louisville and going to likely be there for a long time. But
by the way, Tyler
him with all kinds of talent.
Tyler Shuck, by the way, that QB, let me tell you something. You will see the most amazing throws from him, as amazing as anyone in college football. Like, Notre Dame, he wraps that thing underneath his arm, like sidearm style, underneath his waist, and slings it into the end zone. And he throws that thing from all arm angles. I know he's older and he's been around for a long time. He's taken a bunch of shots, but that dude will be on a roster in the NFL for a long time, probably as a backup. But you know, Louisville they score points, they design, and that the problem is, I know they design plays and I know they're good, Brent, but you start watching them versus Miami, and it's, you know, 43-yard touchdown first drive. It's 21 yards, 30 yards. Like, the chunk Miami can't even make people earn it. And I think that's what bothers me the most about it, is just the lack of consistency and the lack of being in the right place at the right time. But you know what? You know, I'm gonna give you this one too. I wrote this down. Miami owns instant replay and owns the review game like nobody's business. Miami, the Hurricanes are living. They're doing something right, because every single review that could be reviewed, all of the big ones against Cal, against Virginia Tech, Hail Mary. This week, a fumble, scoop, and score. You know, Cam Ward fumbles, Louisville scoops and score. They're all debatable. Miami wins them all. So it's hard enough to beat Cam Ward, but then you're trying to beat the reviews every time, and whoever plays Miami, you're on the wrong side.
Somebody might make a comment that's an ACC thing, but you know, oh well, we'll see. But
they're doing good.
They are doing good. LSU taking care of business at Arkansas, I think, was a big, just sort of I'm here to stay kind of win, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm not letting down. I'm just going to start playing consistently well. Nussmeier, to me, is playing quarterback as well as anyone.
Dude, he's a man. He's just in a world where everybody transfers and everybody leaves. Like, he's just been there a while, and Nussmeier has all the answers to the test, and he has the tools, and he has the patience. He has the savvy. There's nothing about him that's lacking. And I think you're seeing the playmakers build around him. The defense has taken incremental steps, rushing the passer better, turning the football over against, you know, Arkansas today. And if you do that and you play good defense and just competent defense, and you keep getting the ball to him, he'll keep buying time. He'll keep hitting his receivers, making the right decisions, making you pay. As long as they keep him upright and they keep some balance, I mean, LSU's offense can be dangerous. And yeah, like, look at that first game. They lose. They've been in some tight games since then. And I like the fact that they've pulled it out against Ole Miss and made plays late, and you start to build that confidence. And huge showdown next week, huge that we'll be breaking down for sure, because A&M and them, and guess what? Both undefeated in the SEC.
Yep. All right. So next question for you: is it time to start talking about Bryson Daly
for the Heisman?
Army's quarterback, who is absolutely just dunking on people, and 31 for 171 and 5 touchdowns today.
How is that possible? Because triple option teams don't throw the football. Like, they don't do that. They don't practice it as much, and it's crazy when
that was rushing. By the way, those were rushing numbers.
Yeah, correct. But they're throwing the football too, and making
147 and touchdown throwing today.
Well, and you watch the design, like where they get the running backs, they use them in the play action where they block and then release, and they do such a great job of throwing the football. But the triple option is so hard to defend. And Brent, I'll give you one too. Indiana, Army, Navy. Like, Navy's undefeated too. And you know what? You know what you don't have at Army? You know what you don't have at Navy? You don't have transfer portal. You got 0 additions. In the new world of college football, remember, it's about transfer portal. It's about NIL. Well, their teams are all together. They're all gelled. They know who they are. They're fighting for the right causes. They don't have to worry about building a new unity, a new team every year. They don't have to worry about individuality. They're together. So I wonder if that's a product of NIL and in the new world of college football, that you got a team that are going to be together for years and develop, and you're keeping those guys. And I don't know. It's an interesting thought to me.
Navy gets Army, or gets Notre Dame. Sorry.
Yeah.
Next week. That's a big game.
And Notre Dame's struggled to stop the run. They won today, by the way, against GT.
A backup quarterback.
Yeah.
Who came hung around a while, but just ran out of juice without Haynes King.
Yeah, but Pyron, dude, he was 9 for 9 to start the game, and I thought they did pretty well. But I think Notre Dame's figured out who they are, which is cool. They know now how to use Riley, and you can see his running, his ability to use his feet and then build around that, I think is really, really good. Michigan fans, I'm sorry. I think you can pack it in. I mean, it's been a year, and they always say when you have multiple quarterbacks, you don't have one, and they don't have one. And it's that kind of year, and everybody at that spot has really, really struggled. They're trying to find balance, but they turn the ball over. Man, they give it away like they're a nonprofit. And even when they get redos, Tuttle throws an interception right down the middle of the field to absolutely no one. They get a redo and they fumble it a couple plays later. Like, it's that kind of year for Michigan. Their defense is still really good, but injuries too, that like just starting to add up on the defensive side of the football too. But you know what? What's cool, Brent? Michigan fans, all y'all can say is we still got a natty. We still got a ring from last year. That ring is still good, baby. But
still shining.
This year's definitely been a struggle for Michigan.
Speaking of struggle, who do you think feels the worst right now as a fan base? We'll go Oklahoma, Florida State, USC. Oof. I mean, there's probably another one or two in there that I'm leaving out. Is there anybody that maybe I'm?
I mean, it's got to be FSU, dude. Like, it's got to be FSU. I mean, you go from
they got beat by
thought
Duke.
You should have been in the playoffs to like there's nothing going right. I mean, there's absolutely nothing that I can say that's positive that they're building and trending towards. It's been a struggle bus, man. It's been a struggling. I guarantee you they're learning a lot, and you hope that they take this and they develop young guys and they get the quarterback spot figured out. But the culture is hard to it's hard to continue to fight when you go from being a team that you think wants to be in the playoffs, maybe can be there again, to taking a step back, and you ain't even going bowling, Brent. I mean,
no,
like, this team's not even close to that. So I think Florida State's probably, they got to be feeling the worst, right?
Oklahoma probably doesn't feel too good about themselves right now as they go, now that they're in the SEC and they're seeing what it is week to week. That's probably another one. But none of them. I mean,
listen, they got hosed with their schedule too. Like, their schedule stinks. But Oklahoma and their injury bug has been crazy with running back or with receivers and offensive line, and they've gotten dinged up. But they definitely you'd like to see. Listen, teams are never staying the same, right? They're growing and getting better, but it's a struggle to watch them because they can't get anything going on the offensive side of the football. I mean, there's just nothing. You know what? You know what else is hard to be? Auburn fans. I mean, golly, dude, I was writing down the stuff with Auburn today, and I was like, man, they're going to do this. Like, offense had a good stretch, to start the second half. By the way, the Auburn defense has played really good this year. Like, they've kept them in most ball games that they've played, and they've given them a chance, but creating explosive plays and just haven't been able to do it. And then fourth quarter, they got 2 short fields, and if their offense can give them something. Dude, they had a chance, Brent, first and goal with the lead, and they get a drop touchdown pass for a easy touchdown pass they could have scored, and then they missed the field goal. Like a chippy, tiny little field goal they miss, and then Missouri, Brady Cook, tip of the cap. Like, yes, give Brady Cook some love, man. Brady Cook is hated on by a lot of people, and I get it. He has not played great, but the team the team talks about him, and we had Eli Drinkowitz on, and he talked about it, just what's inside of here and how tough he is. Dude, he went to the hospital. That dude went to the hospital after the first drive. His team's battling, comes back from the hospital. They're like, hey, bro, you're good. Comes back and literally leads his team on a fourth quarter drive to win the football game. So Brady Cook, like, that was impressive. They scored the final 18 points.
Yeah, very much big win for Missouri to sort of hang on. They're kind of hanging on and survive. Another tip of the cap, by the way, the Tennessee crowd.
Dude, they're always awesome.
But the frustrations had to be mounting as you're watching your offense struggle like that. But the crowd, the energy of the crowd was maintained and just impressive, because that was something that was massively coming through the TV. The impact of the crowd in that game and keeping positive, helping the defense, all the things that they could, all the things that were going on.
I don't think it would have happened, Brent. I think they booed a little bit. You could tell they got a little bit pissed off. And by the way, you should get mad. But when you got a defense that's that elite, when you help them with all the noise, you saw the false starts by Alabama. Like, that's a big deal. Playing at home, being able to get off the football with a little bit of an edge is huge. But I thought that was big. But the 91-yard drive out of half, like that, after that happened and they tied the football game up, like, it was going bananas. It was going nuts, and they did just enough to kind of hang on, because the first half was a comedy of errors with 2 interceptions and a fumble, and Nico getting hurt and his backup QB throwing an interception. Like, there was a lot to swallow, and Tennessee fans were probably like, would you give me something? Like, this, we're built on offense. Please give me something. And, I think that was, you're right. Like, it was tip of cap to them. The loudest stadium I've ever played in at one time was Neyland Stadium. Like, when Travis Stevens caught a screen pass against us my freshman year, I literally didn't think – I couldn't hear anybody next to me. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear for like a week. It was so loud at one time. And those fans love their teams, and they've got something to cheer about, and that's been fun. And if they can get more from Nico consistently, who knows what this year could happen.
All right, let's circle back to sort of where we stand, you think? Top 5 to 10.
Oof.
What we look at now, because we started the week. Texas 1, Oregon 2, Penn State 3, who neither of which played. Ohio State 4, Georgia 5, Miami 6. We kind of talked about
the order, right? We talked about that last week.
Talked about it as a preview. I think Oregon now maybe definitively is the one.
They're the only ones that can be the one, aren't they?
Yeah, I agree. I very much agree. Now, do you put Penn State at 2 or because of just that moving up the ladder business, or do you put things a little differently?
I move up the ladder. I'm fine with Penn State going to 2. Listen, Penn State has a little bit of the Texas feel to me, where I don't know what they've done yet, because they haven't been super challenged. And then USC losing to Maryland today. Yes, I said that out loud. By the way, go check out the clip of the Maryland. Did you see the clip, Brent, of the Maryland victory formation?
I did not see that, but I saw the one-handed catch from the USC kid. That was unreal. Just do yourself a favor and go back and watch the Maryland. You'll see it on socials. Maryland takes a knee, 29-28. Take a knee. Quarterback turns around, flips the ball up,
running back jumps up, quarterback makes a hoop with his hands, running back catches it, goes between his legs and dunks it. Like, it was absolutely dope.
Well,
It was
Vinsanity.
so cool. It was awesome. But listen, it'll all work itself out with Penn State. But I mean, you've seen them do what they need to do. You've seen progress from Drew Aller, but right now at that spot, I'm fine with that. Who you got at 3 then?
I would put Georgia at 3, just because of the win, as much as anything.
Mean, is it fair to say, by the way, that I know people are going to get upset, but like, Georgia won't that ace. Like, Georgia took care of business.
Oh, that game should have been 35-0 at half.
If they didn't really suck on offense for a large
Correct.
stretch, it would have been really bad. I mean, they gave up 38 yards in the first half. And if you give me that defense the rest of the year, I mean, that was even in a hostile environment. So that defense, I think Georgia is definitely going to be in the top 5, but their offense still not elite. Do you move Miami up because they're still undefeated, or do you say another struggle and they gave up 45? I mean, I definitely this is the part that to me is going to be interesting. And then once you get to that further down the road, remember, we're going to have championship weekend before we have the 12-team playoff. So I'm interested to see who loses a playoff game or who loses the championship game and then gets knocked back because they played in the championship game and other people didn't. Right. And Notre Dame, still winning. By the way, having BYU and Iowa State still undefeated and where they fall in this mix. I think if you're a fan of other conferences, you want some of these teams to lose, because otherwise you might play on championship Saturday and then be sitting at home because you lost an extra game.
Kansas State gets Iowa State at the end of the year, which could be, that could have multiple playoff implications in terms of getting into the championship game and then the playoff itself. I mean, the ACC is still wide open because you got Pitt and SMU that play each other, but they're still undefeated. Clemson's rolling along. I think it's 4 straight games over 40 for Clemson.
Struggled a little bit today defensively early on, but they got it. They got it together. And man, I'm watching Klubnik every week, and I'm watching him turn from a guy who had horrible pocket presence when he started. Like, he was leaving a clean pocket a lot, and to a guy that now can play under chaos and reset his feet and make plays. And they didn't have their freaky freshman today either at wide receiver. And still took care of business. But I know it was Virginia, but I'm definitely seeing Klubnik continue to grow and develop and week by week. So, I'll be curious too to see where Texas goes now. How far do they fall down the 1-loss ring, getting beat at home?
So let's do you think the QB thing becomes a thing at all?
Okay, so watching the game, I feel like they needed a spark, like Texas, but I also felt like Texas' offensive line was getting manhandled. So I could understand why you make the switch to Arch, because Arch has more mobility. You get an advantage in the run game, which I think is important, because they couldn't run the football. And what makes it weirder now going forward is I thought we were going to see Arch coming out in the second half, but you go back to Quinn Ewers, and then he goes right down the field and then gets the 2-point conversion, and all of a sudden you got a game. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see, Texas and how they handle this situation. Because, once you start doing a little bit of this, it's really, really hard. And I think it was easy when Quinn Ewers was out with an injury. Now, when he's out because he didn't play real good and they couldn't, they were inept on offense. Now, I think the noise becomes bigger because good and well, you heard it. When Manning came in the game, it was loud. And he's a Manning. Like, he's got a big name, and he's had some big games too. I'm not going to hate on him.
He's played really well. He's played really, really well when he's played.
He didn't tonight, though. I mean, he was 3 of 9, 1 rush.
There was a third down that he threw a deeper ball. He had a wide open crosser that he missed.
Wide open crosser. And listen, he was getting hit too. And that's what happens. You become very human when you get hit. And I think Texas has had it so easy to start the season. And this is why I picked Georgia, because when you saw Texas's defense, you knew they weren't elite. You knew they were pretty vanilla. But when you saw who they played, the best team they played was Oklahoma. The best team they played was Michigan. What do those two teams have in common? They haven't yet figured out how to complete a forward pass. So now when you play better teams, I think you've seen in Georgia, they struggled a little bit more. They're still obviously a really good football team, but the quarterback spot, man, it's now led to a discussion which sometimes creeps in the locker room, which is what you worry about.
Looking at the other side of that game, Kirby Smart now fastest to 100 wins at a single SEC school, 117 games that he got to 100 wins, and one where for Georgia that with a bye week coming up. But the thing for them is there's no let up. Florida now is playing a little bit better. And that's always it's a rivalry game, much like others.
Florida's playing a lot better, not just a little better. They're playing a lot better. Like they're a lot more.
Lagway's a different element.
They're a lot more explosive. Obviously, so that helps you can score. And let's be honest too. Now let's talk about what happened in this game that affects that game. Your starting safety, Dan Jackson's out. Now you rotate your next group. The next guy's out for targeting. So they lost 2 guys tonight in their secondary that you're basically 2 starters down going into the Florida week. Now, I'll be interested to see what happens with Tate Ratledge if he's back from that game because you have a bye week, and that might shore up the offensive line. By the way, ETN going back to Florida, interesting storylines always.
Yep.
But no, Florida definitely looks more the part. And listen, going down the road to Georgia, they still go in a 2-week stretch, Brent, at Ole Miss, home against Tennessee.
Yep.
You know good and well they could lose one of those 2 games. I mean, and again, the offense consistency and the receiver position out wide and then lack of running the football. So I'm not giving anything to anybody on any given week. We've seen Oregon almost lose to Boise. We've seen Oregon struggle against in the beginning of the season. You know, I love the way Oregon, by the way, I texted my Oregon buddy this week. I have one Oregon buddy. And I texted him and I said, that was an adult performance against Purdue. Like we had a huge game. We come out and we take care of business. A grown-up adult decision, a grown-up adult move by Oregon. That I loved
on a Friday night road game.
Friday night road game after beating Ohio State. Everything in that game says let down. And they came out and they just dominated the football game. So you got any more questions in the chat we could hit before we take off?
Let's see. I don't
know how to do all that stuff.
I don't think if folks, if you got questions, just hit them in the chat. We'll take a look. But the other thing I think looking at this game is, did you hear, at least the Georgia-Texas game, because obviously that was the biggest of the day. Did you happen to hear Kirby after the game?
Oh, God, yes.
And the first thing he says was, your whole network doubted us. That was like the nobody believes in us mojo is every coach's
dream.
Dude, when you're good, when you have talent, by the way, when you have talent, it's different when you don't have talent. But when you have talent.
And I think this is something that's working against Carson Beck. So every coach, first of all, wants to have and wants to play that role. Because here's why the defense plays better. You have more energy. You have more physicality. You tackle better when you're a little bit pissed off, when you're a little bit doubted. You got a little bit of that screw you in you. And so I think that's a big deal. But another thing from Carson Beck. So when my sophomore year, Brent, I broke the sack record at the University of Georgia. I had like 13 sacks or something like that. And naturally, what do you do the next year? When you're setting goals and you're talking about the next year, you're going, I'm going to be better. And my goal is to get 20. And you come back and you naturally think that's how it's going to happen. You're going to get better. You're going to grow. Well, you don't have all the hate the last year because it was your first year as a starter. Now everybody's got high ceiling, high expectations. It doesn't help that they tell people what you're making money-wise. That ain't no good either because people know how much money you're making. But so you think you need to be here. And I think when you get dinged, he's already got more picks this year than he had all of last season. So he's made mistakes. But I also thought I was going to get better because I thought my numbers would get better, but I lost Jonathan Sullivan on the inside, who was a pass rusher that helped me get those sacks. Well, he lost Ladd. He lost Bowers. And you can tell. Dom Lovett, by the way, he don't want to go over the middle, Brent. Let's call a spade a spade. Like, those arms get short going across the middle. Arian Smith is not consistent. Bell had drops tonight. Like, you saw the transfer from Vanderbilt. Like,
London Humphreys.
London Humphreys had a big drop that could have kind of iced the game. Like there's not a lot of consistent luck. Lucky had a drop that one he should have caught for a touchdown. That should have been a touchdown. The other one cost him an interception. So I think He's got to continue to grow and get on the same page with his guy, and they got to continue to run the football if they want to get to the promised land. Remember, 12-team playoff. Who's the healthiest down the stretch, and who's playing the best? Like, it's going to matter more than anything now, adding so many games on to the end. And I bet you when we get to the end, we're still talking about the same teams in the end. But fun weekend. You got anything else, Brent? Or
I'll say last thing. Good question. I think Army or Navy in the playoff.
Army.
Either one.
Army.
Well, I would say I would think you would pick that one anyway. You
Go Army.
You have a little bit of bias, but that's
beat
fine.
Navy. I will always pick that because of Uncle Gus. But man, college football just continues to deliver, and we'll continue to deliver, guys, and continue to give you good stuff and no fluff. I mean, we're just going to talk college football. We're not doing anything else. That's it, literally. So if you like us, click subscribe, man. Keep listening up, and we'll be back for some previews and maybe grab a coach this week from one of the main teams. And appreciate all you guys listening.
Thank you.